I just appreciate you guys letting me come down here and be with you today and sharing God's word, maybe learn a little something. It's my pleasure to do that for you guys. I just enjoy this kind of stuff. I get up here and I just kind of get to relax. Everything else is crazy for me. By the way, my name's Jeff. I'm here. I'm from Hillmar. We go to the Little Baptist Church in Hillmar. So we have fun there. My wife, Jennifer, is a music director. And I just kind of know this behind-the-scenes guy, like Brian back there, kind of do all the little stuff. But they asked me to preach, and I enjoy doing it. I get, like I said, once I'm done doing all that, I get up here and just kind of relaxes me a little bit. So with that, we're going to be talking a little about unshakable faith. A little bit about my testimony, my life. Everybody has one. Everybody has sometimes had their faith shaken or tested. And I think we always need to get a refresher course on it, even though we've probably heard 1,000 sermons on it. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. This week, it's funny. Asked to come pray. First thing that comes, or come speak. First thing that comes to my mind is, I'm going to speak on unshakable faith. And just a quick story. I had a dairy in Hillmar, lots of cows, lots of ground, and we sold out. And so my parents basically said, well, you got to go get a job. So after doing this since I was this tall, it's quite the traumatic event, to your system. And it's funny, as I'm starting to read this and go into the sermon and tear it apart a little bit, I had a job application or a job interview that I did with Caltrans, and they came back with, no, we're not going to take you. Sorry, but no. And so I have to exercise that strength, that faith muscle again, and realize what God's trying to teach me in this, and to grow that muscle, and to be able to strengthen it next time, or show it when something else happens, that it won't affect me as deeply as it did before. And we'll get to it here in a second, but that muscle and that showing that faith, once you've learned these trials and have experienced it and strengthened that muscle, you're a witness to other people when you're out in the midst of it. People are watching, and they will judge you on it, unfortunately. So anyways, let's get into it. Like I said, did you get my water there, friend? Sorry about that. I can't help but think that I'm looking into the camera that was once upon a time at our camera at our church, and it's kind of funny. It's actually the conversations me and Dave had about that camera. So it's kind of cool, actually. My story that I told you about, it's not like to the equivalent that your stories may be. I'm sure you guys have just outstanding stories and testaments of faith and persevering through your trials. My little not getting a job fails in comparison to some of the stuff that you guys are going to. I realize that, but to me, in my little world right now, it's pretty harsh. I guess it's a man thing that you have to provide for your family. Because right now, my wife went and got a job, and she's having to have to work first time ever since she was a little kid. Little kid to me, but much younger. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, we've been together for 25 years. I put up with her for. She's put up with me for almost 30 years now, but married for 25. And she's got the job, and I don't. So it's a little test of faith. It's unshakable faith. Again, trying to. I've got to learn something from this guy. Do you want another trip around the mountain, or are you going to learn from it this time? So that's where we're at. Yesterday during my devotion, when I was reading, there was a story about a little kid who fell out of his bed in the middle of the night, and he was woken up startled, and he running to mom, and she asked him what was wrong, and she goes, well, I think I must have stayed too close to where I got into the bed. I must have laid down too close to the edge of the bed. too close to where I got into it. And that struck me right to the core, because I think as Christians, we get into Christianity right and stay right where we get into bed, right in the edge, and we have a tendency to fall out. Or in my case, I fell out. Well, I won't throw you all in that bus yet, but I can only speak for myself. And my story, to some degree, is you've probably heard it 1,000 times. The alcoholic, drug, I grew into that. I also, they say people are recovering alcoholics and recovering addicts and stuff. I'm also a recovering Catholic. So with that being said, yeah. So the whole faith, it's based on works. So it's hard to explain when you define the biblical description of faith in the Bible. It's basically in Hebrews 11:1, but that was a foreign concept to me, and so I'm easily shaken as a Catholic, as coming from Catholic, where you have to see it to believe it, you have to feel it to believe it, or you have to work your way into it, and that's how if you work, you will get. And I still struggle with that today. And so I've gotten clean in '97, got saved, everything was rosy and great, and walking with the Lord, and I just took my eyes off the Lord. And a few years later, I had some significant years, and a few years after that, I took my eyes off the Lord. I think I got close to the edge of the bed, and I fell out. I took my eyes off. I'm distracted. My faith was shaken by little things, work, no real one thing. So it was a weak foundation to some degree. And my wife, she had a faith that I had not seen in anybody at this time. She knew, got a message from the Lord or something, that Jeff was going to get clean this time. But she needed help to strengthen her faith in this. She reached outside of the church, because you don't bring that kind of stuff to your home church, because, well, she was trying to keep my integrity, and how does she work through this without not compromising my integrity? And she was all about that, so gracious to me when I didn't deserve it. And she actually went to the Patterson Church, one of our sister church in the association, Rhonda Stoppe. You guys are familiar with her? She's Steve Stoppe's wife. She talks all over the place now, focus on family and all these different things now. And she actually remembered Jennifer confiding in her about me, and Rhonda gave her some of the best advice: don't quit on him, even though she had a right to. And all these wonderful things that is contrary to what the world tells you to do to someone like that, to your husband nowadays. It's so easy to hit eject, divorce them and all these things. She wasn't about that, and so we made a great recovery. And Ron Stoppe wrote a book. We're in this book. I'm not getting any royalties from it. Trust me, I'm not trying to sell the book. I don't get anything from it, but we're in her book, and it's been a blessing. She's been able to go around and speak at several different places, Lodi and up in the hills at the Twain Hart Bible up there. So it's just every time I step back, allow my faith to be shaken, something like that happens to strengthen it. God doesn't want you to waste a hurt. No, he doesn't. He doesn't waste hers. It just doesn't happen. But we need to realize that he doesn't want that. And so let's get right into it. What is faith? And like I said, in Hebrews 11:1, the biblical definition, I think, is found there. If I get this right. And then I started it moving, didn't I?
It times out after a while.
I was warned about that, wasn't I? So Hebrews 11, this was a big one for me. This is, I call it my Catholic conflict right here. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Again, I have to see these things to believe them, but I'm learning that this is not how God works. He don't work like that at all. So I'm learning this, and it's been a struggle, because every time that I feel like, I'll be honest with you, when something like my job thing. I prayed so hard. People are praying so hard, and it doesn't happen. I have a tendency to get a little angry with God, and I'm trying to fix it, and I know it's not just, and I know it's not right. It's just a character defect that I'm working through. I don't like that in me. I'm sharing that with you, but I have to say these things because they bring up the light. Otherwise, they get suppressed in the darkness. Yeah, because again, the faith, it's not about everything turning out okay. Faith is about being okay no matter how things turn out. And I'm learning that the hard way. And sometimes the easy way. It's an amazing thing. And during the putting together of this, I thought there was 3 things that kind of stood out to me that we can talk about during Unshakable Faith. Went over that one because I forgot to click. See, usually we have a guy that back there, he does the clicking for me. I'm not used to running the clicker. Yeah, this is my point number 1 that I wanted to talk about faith is during education, because when you're young, like I said, everything is, you're just learning. You touch, it's hot. Faith, you got to trust, and you learn it little by little. And it's a big learning curve quickly when you come to faith, and there's all of a sudden everyone here, I'm sure I can bring up and has some kind of faith story. This happened to me, and by faith I powered through it, or with the Lord. You know what I mean? I learned along the way. And now it is one of your tools in your toolbox that you use to apply to your life next time a trial or something like that happens. And but we live by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians. And this is Paul obviously talking about encouraging his new pastors and everything like that. This was a good one for me that popped up when I talked about learning about how it is the faith, because these guys were all young in their ministries and they were getting opposition left and right. And good old Paul, who had experience in faith and has some experience. But we need to have experienced people to help us young people to know what to do, even though we don't like it or don't want to hear it. But experience says a lot, and they have a lot of wisdom and a lot of faith because of trials. So a real quick story I heard also too. You guys know who Francis Chan is? A very popular speaker. He I want to say he did preach for a while at a Baptist church, Southern Baptist. Anyways, he blew up, and he kind of goes on missions all over the place now. He actually left his mega church down south, and he just went on mission fields. Anyways, he went to it was an amusement park of some kind where they go to check out the animals. The whole family, his grandmother even, she was in tow, and she was looking sadder and sadder by the moment. And he was like, "What's going on, Grandma? Why? We're having a laugh, and everybody's having fun." And she kind of starts getting all sad, and he asked her, "What's the deal?" And she goes, "Son," she called her grandson, son, and I would hate to be here right now enjoying all this, and if Jesus returns and finds that I'm not serving him in some way, I feel guilty. What on earth? That's just, I'm sure you all have grandmas like that. But you know what I'm saying? Who does that? Now, I'm not saying that that's okay to be upset while you're enjoying your family because you're not serving God. But to have that mindset, that kind of faith, and that kind of devotion to Christ is amazing. To say, no, I'm not serving Christ right now. I'm kind of uncomfortable. I wish we were all like that. This place would be filled if that were the mentality. I just found that amazing. And I want to be like that someday. So let's go on. Faith during persecution. This is another one. The next thing, it's the next part of the evolution, I believe, that now you're getting in there, you're getting a little vocal about your faith. And that's when here comes Satan. Hit you right between the eyes, or opposition. And it is an attempt to back you down in your faith. And this is another one that hits me, another one that pertains to me. This verse right here, it will hit you right between the eyes. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, how much more will he clothe you, O ye little faith? Luke 12:28. this is in the Bible. So this is where he's talking about, he's teaching us about money and possessions. But I think this is kind of apropos again. I mean, in the Bible, I think, depending upon the version you have, faith is brought up 300 to 500 times, depending upon what you have. I mean, it's pretty important to him. And I think it's the basis, next to love, that we need to be applying in our life. It's just, that was just a strong one for me. Moving on. Matthew 17:20. He replied, because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to the mountain, move here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. And this is in the Bible where he was, the disciples were amazed at Jesus' healing power. And he basically said, you can too, if you have the faith. And you don't because you don't. Or you can't because you don't. And again, another really strong case for faith and how powerful it can be in your lives and others who are watching. So to carry on with the persecuted thing, you can be embarrassed by it, you can be ridiculed by your faith, you can be actually judged, and it can actually become violent. You know, we don't have a lot of that here. We are getting actually more and more of that today. Our belief is being stepped on, and it is other beliefs are being held up as we're intolerant or this, that. They have no idea what they're talking about. They have never read our books. It's just a bunch of propaganda that people have agendas. And of course we have an agenda, but we know we're right with our agenda. But we never shove it in their face like they're doing and convincing the whole world that we're the devil. And so our persecution here is getting pretty potent. But it's not like in other countries where you lose your life. You guys hear it all the time. You guys do mission work. And you know, it is not easy to be, when you got to hide to go into a country, otherwise they'll kill you. That's persecution. But I'm grateful we don't have that here yet. So the next one, the third one, faith during temptation. That's what we've been talking about the whole time. It will, once you start to flex that muscle, you will be tempted by Satan and or the world. And we'll try to get you to, oh, so this is what you believe. Okay, well, let's see about that. That's my experience. So we got another set of scriptures to go with this that I found that went with it real well. Is Matthew 14:31 of the NIV. Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. You of little faith. He said, why do you doubt? Do we know which one? Remember which one that one was? That's when they're in a boat, right? And that's when he starts to sink. Isn't that funny? I mean, can you hear what I'm saying about faith? We have the faith. Was Jesus just talking to them, or is it talking to us? Because I want that kind of faith. That I can just trust and walk on water. I know that sounds a little weird if some outsiders were to come in here, but I want that kind of faith. And to be able to heal with the power of that kind of faith, and just to believe. It's kind of scary that these things don't happen to me because I don't have the faith that it requires. I mean, and I'm not trying to hit you over the head with that because I'm trying to figure it out myself. I want that. And it's obviously capable. It's obviously possible. It wouldn't be in here if it were. So the next one, this one leads us to our main. I read it to you earlier. We'll read it again. It's from James 1:5-8. And this is one of my wife's favorite books, James. She has like half of it memorized. Or most of it. It's legit, she says. In verse 5 is where we'll start. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unstable in all that they do. Faith and endurance, that's what this chapter was about in James. Faith and endurance. It's a tough one. It doesn't come easy to me. I pray that it's much easier to you guys than it is to me, and that's what we're talking about today. Try to fix it. Try to help it. This faith thing strikes everyone. It struck Jesus towards the end when he's talking about, oh, may this cup pass through me. I think that he was not necessarily wavering in his faith, but he would do what we do. Let's just try to find an alternative. So I don't, it's really hard for the people like me that are in recovery, because we have a tendency to want to numb these things. And when you, like I said, if you numb when we try to numb the darkness, we're actually numbing the light in our instance and in what we do. And it's just amazing the things that he has taught me in the scripture and in life. And all these three things are designed for growth in faith. And then if you're not using the faith, why would he give you any more? He doesn't open it up to you to have unlimited less at any time. It's given in doses that you can handle. And he won't give you any more faith if you're not applying it or using it. That's been my experience too. So the comfort, being comfortable in your faith it just doesn't mix. It's not something that you have to almost be uncomfortable. It just one doesn't do the other. The Hall of Fame, or the Hall of Faith, I should say, here in Hebrews, every one of them didn't go the easy route or get the easy route, if you'll notice. The Hall of Faith is full of the greats that struggled with this very thing and showed glimpses of getting it, and that's why they're in here. So I think a lot of times God looks at us as, I always say it's all about the try. God knows we're not necessarily going to get here. He doesn't want us down here, but as long as we're going in here and we're going like this, I think God sometimes goes, it's okay. That'll work for now. And I hang my hat on that all the time. I think as long it's all about the try. Pretty much in closing, it's a lifetime thing. Like I said, I'm going to get you guys out of here early before dinner. It's a lifetime effort. It's a lifetime thing that you're going to be struggling with, and there's different people are in different levels of it. So be patient with it. Please patient with me. Unshakable faith does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to live up to some Christian standard as long as it resembles faith. You know what I mean? Because you may not achieve it if you think Sister so-and-so over here has a different definition of faith. You know what I mean? And I got to meet their standard. You don't have to meet their standard. No one's here. You have to meet this standard to the best of your ability, I believe. Always depends more on Christ to sustain you through significant trials. So the faith muscle, its purpose is to rely on Christ. Faith, more Christ. Faith, more Christ. And that's the teeter-totter, I like to call it. Unshakable faith, it can't be shaken. And that's where we're headed today. Unshakable faith can't be shaken because it is a result of having already been shaken. So when you get these trials, don't let them depress you like they do me sometimes. Think of them as learning opportunities. And it will strengthen your faith muscle in the end because you went through it. And we can choose to, a lot of times, this collapses people like me and people that I know right now. I'm talking to 2, sometimes 3 people in our church that are struggling with their faith, that are out drinking or walked away from the church. Me and my wife talk a lot with a lot of people. We are the resident alcoholic, recovering, codependent people in our church, and we have a servant's heart, and that's what we like to do. We love helping people in this area. So I mean, even after we're done here, if you want to talk about any of that kind of thing, I'm more than welcome to. That's just where That's the world in which I live. This is what I love to do. But again, to the Hall of Faith people, there was one in the Bible that always sticks out to me, Abraham. God said to Abraham, I mean, you remember the kind of faith he had? He said to him, I'm not ashamed to be called Abraham's God. That's what he said. He said, I am not ashamed to be called by Abraham, Abraham's God. When I read that, I was like, what? What on earth? I want to be like that. I want to be able to God to say, I know, right? Amazing. It's unbelievable. And finally, I'll just end with this. I said that about 5 minutes ago. Faith in action shows Christ in your life. Again, people are watching you. So, when a trial comes, you remember your experiences, you act out in faith and trust that the Lord is going to provide. People are watching you, and people may come to Christ because of your witness. Because the outsiders and the normies, or whatever you want to call them, they're watching you and they're judging you, and that's good. I say it's it's tough. Earlier I said that they're always watching you, and it's but take advantage of it. They may only see Christ through you. You may be the only Bible they read. I make these sermons. I haven't clipped this in about 10 minutes, have I?
I took care of it for you.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. But yeah, it's amazing. It will be a profession of your faith by how you respond to your trials. And then you can share with others how you made it through if they ask you to speak about it, because some will. And that's been our case. When we've shared it with people, they must see something in us because they ask for our... Well, yeah, it's obviously all Christ. It's not our doing. Christ leads us in these things. And I'm just grateful for it. I'm grateful for this opportunity to talk with you guys today. I've done a couple of these at our church. Our pastor's starting to wind down also. And so I guess he saw sucker right across my head. It's Jeff, you're the next one up. But I always like to say one last thing when I'm done is what God has done, God can do.
Amen.
Period. Amen. Father, thank you. Let's close in prayer. Father, thank you for everything. Thank you for this church again. Thank you for all that you're doing in our lives. And thank you for our trials. Thank you for that strengthening of that muscle that we don't necessarily always like. It's uncomfortable. We don't like it. But we know it's a necessary evil, and we know that's how you work. You allow these things in our lives so that we can grow and know you more. Otherwise, we wouldn't. I just think you're the best, and again, thank you for all that you're doing. I love you, and I thank you.